Have you ever wondered how a species that decoded the human genome, walked on the moon, and sent robotic emissaries beyond the edge of the solar system can still struggle to treat each other with kindness on a Tuesday morning? This is the paradox of modern humanity. We are cosmic beings of stardust, equipped with supercomputers in our skulls and empathy in our hearts yet. We are often lost in tribal conflict, consumed by fear, and divided by illusions we ourselves invented. We live in an age where we can measure the cosmic microwave background and afterglow of the birth of the universe, yet fail to perceive the emotional aftershocks we leave in the lives of people closest to us. We map galaxies billions of light years away, but neglect the inner landscapes of our own consciousness. And perhaps that's the real frontier not out there, in the cold brilliance of the cosmos, but in here, where the heat of fear and love still shapes the trajectory of our lives. We are, after all, transitional creatures, not quite angels, not quite beasts, not entirely bound by instinct, but not fully liberated by reason. We stand on a razor's edge between what we were and what we might become, between the old Earth and a new one. And let's be clear, when I say new Earth, I'm not referring to some mythical utopia, nor an escape pod from the consequences of our actions. I'm speaking of a transformation as real as tectonic plates shifting beneath our feet. One rooted in biology, physics, and psychology. One driven not by prophecy, but by choice. You see, just as a star must collapse before it becomes a supernova, civilizations too reach critical mass. The signs are rarely subtle. Rising temperatures, fractured economies, ideological polarization, the erosion of empathy in the face of algorithmic certainty, these are not omens of doom. They are data points in a civilization struggling through its adolescence. What we are witnessing is not the end of the world, it is a recalibration of values, a cosmic puberty, if you will, a growth spurt in the moral and mental musculature of our species. And as with any transformation, there are thresholds. Not everyone will cross them at the same time. Not everyone will want to, but the invitation is universal. The phrase, "only the purest souls will cross," might sound exclusionary at first glance, like a gated community for the morally elite. But purity, in a scientific sense, is not about perfection, it's about resonance. In quantum mechanics, particles don't just move, they vibrate. They exist as probabilities until observed, behaving more like waves than points. Now imagine consciousness as a field like gravity or electromagnetism. And every thought you have, every intention you broadcast changes your frequency. The universe doesn't care what label you wear, how many likes you get, or how spiritual your Instagram page looks. It only cares whether your signal aligns with the frequency of life, of evolution, of coherence. That is purity, not in a moralistic sense, but in a resonant, energetic, scientific one. You've likely heard the phrase, "what you put out is what you get back." It's often dismissed as pop spirituality, but beneath it lies a principle observable even in physics: feedback loops. Whether it's climate systems, electrical circuits, or the neural wiring of your brain systems evolved based on input. Garbage in, garbage out, compassion in, growth, complexity, harmony. So what if the new Earth is not a place, but a bandwidth? A range of vibrational coherence within the planetary consciousness, into which only those who match its frequency can stabilize. What if it's less about where you're going and more about what you're becoming? And what if the chaos we see today is not a breakdown, but a signal, a prelude to reconfiguration? As the philosopher Teilhard de Chardin once said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." But even that might be too simplistic. We are cosmic beings, with molecules forged in the hearts of stars, engaging in a planetary drama of awakening. And it's messy, painful, confusing, much like evolution itself. Dinosaurs didn't go extinct because they were evil. They simply couldn't adapt. Likewise, clinging to outdated paradigms of separation, of control, of scarcity won't damn you, but it will exclude you from what's next. Not by divine decree, but by resonance mismatch. Like trying to stream high-definition video over a dial-up connection. So, let me ask you this. What are you broadcasting? Are your thoughts aligned with fear or with possibility? Do your daily choices reflect tribalism or unity? Are you a biological echo of ancient survival mechanisms or conscious agent shaping reality itself? We now know that perception literally alters the structure of the brain. Neuroplasticity, epigenetics, the observer effect in quantum mechanics. These are not metaphors, they're mechanisms. And they all point to the same startling truth: you are not a victim of reality, you are its architect. And if enough of us choose coherence over chaos, creativity over consumption, compassion over convenience, we'll tip the scales. Not by force, not by revolution, but by resonance. A tipping point isn't about numbers, it's about momentum. So when we say only the purest souls will cross to the new earth, understand this: the crossing is not a lottery, it's a calibration. And purity is not sainthood. It is simply the refusal to pollute your signal with noise that no longer serves the evolution of your species. The new earth is not in the sky, it's not a planet you travel to, it's a frequency you rise into. And rising is a choice. But rising, of course, requires letting go. In physics, an object can't gain altitude unless it overcomes gravity. And in human life, gravity often comes disguised not as a law of motion, but as a habit of mind. Fear, shame, resentment, these are the emotional gravities that keep us anchored to a version of ourselves the universe has already outgrown. Evolution is not polite. It does not knock. It breaks open doors. It tears down what no longer serves the structure. It forces the caterpillar into liquefaction, disassembling its body into biological soup before it reemerges as something that defies its old form. You want transformation? Prepare to dissolve. And perhaps that's what so many of us are feeling in this moment. The friction of a species in metamorphosis. The ache of not yet being what we're meant to become, while no longer fitting into what we were. We see this everywhere. In the classroom, struggling to teach outdated curricula to minds shaped by quantum-level information flow. In political systems, groaning under the weight of 20th century ideologies in a 21st century world. In institutions built like Newtonian machines trying to manage a world that behaves more like a chaotic fractal, we're trying to use the logic of clocks to decode the language of clouds. But the cosmos does not regress. It expands. It refines. It builds complexity atop simplicity. Consciousness atop chemistry, societies atop synapses, and we are part of that architecture's stardust with opinions, carbon with choices. So let's ask a difficult but necessary question. If this so-called new Earth isn't somewhere out there, but is rather a higher expression of our existing one, how does it emerge? What catalyzes its birth? Is it external condition, a shift in solar activity, a galactic alignment, a sudden miracle? Or is it internal, a tipping point in human behavior, perception, and purpose? The answer, as in most things cosmic, is not either or. It's both and. We know that Earth moves through energetic regions of the galaxy just as a ship moves through different currents in the sea. These interstellar environments, dense or diffuse with cosmic particles effect, planetary magnetism, weather, and perhaps even consciousness. There's mounting evidence that major shifts in Earth's biosphere often coincide with astronomical cycles, whether it's ice ages, mass extinctions, or bursts of evolutionary change. So, yes, the cosmos is shifting. The energies bathing our planet are not static. But energy alone is not the architect. It is the blueprint. We are the builders. And just as a violin won't make music unless someone picks it up and plays, these new energies will not compose a new civilization unless conscious minds learn to resonate with them. In other words, the environment is upgrading, but will we choose to match it? It's easy to talk about the new Earth like it's an inevitability, but inevitability is a myth. In science, everything is conditional. It depends on variables. Remove just one element, temperature, mass, velocity, and the equation collapses. The same is true for human destiny. The new Earth is not promised. It is offered. It is a probability, not a guarantee. And probabilities don't actualize themselves. Conscious agents do. So what kind of agents are we? Right now, we are a species with incredible tools but uncertain intentions. We've engineered artificial intelligence capable of simulating empathy, yet still struggle to extend real empathy across borders. We've harnessed nuclear energy but not yet mastered nonviolent communication. We explore distant planets, but often neglect the ecosystems and emotional landscapes of our own. This is not a condemnation, it's a snapshot. A civilization's maturity is not measured by its technology, but by its ability to handle truth without denial, power without corruption, and freedom without self-destruction. If the new Earth is to emerge, it will not be because we escaped the old one. It will be because we transcended its limitations from within. And that requires an upgrade in consciousness, not in some vague spiritual sense, but in the same way software needs to be updated to run new programs. A glitchy operating system can't support higher functions. And right now, many of us are running on belief structures that were last updated in the Bronze Age. Tribalism, dominance, superstition, scarcity. These were useful survival codes in a world where threats were immediate and survival was a daily gamble. But now, these outdated scripts are bugs in the code. They crash civilizations. They corrupt institutions. They erode empathy and dull our sense of the possible. Imagine trying to run a quantum simulation on a Commodore 64. That's what it feels like to cram modern human potential into archaic systems of thought. So the question is not, how do we build the new Earth? The question is, how do we upgrade the humans trying to build it? And the answer, again, is found in science and in dogma, in observation, experimentation, and self-reflection. Because transformation is not a theory, it is a process. One we can measure, participate in, and even accelerate. Neuroscience shows us that meditation rewires the brain. Psychology shows us that trauma can be metabolized into wisdom. Systems theory shows us that small shifts in input create large shifts in output. If you want to change the world, you don't need to wait for a revolution. You just need to become a different kind of node in the network. The signal you emit changes the structure of the system. You are both transmitter and receiver in the quantum web of human consciousness. Think of yourself as a tuning fork. If you resonate with fear, you amplify fear. If you resonate with clarity, compassion, curiosity, you become a stabilizing wave in a chaotic field. And just as in a laser, where coherent light builds power through phase alignment, the more of us who align our inner frequencies with integrity, truth, and wonder, the more unstoppable our signal becomes. That is how a new Earth is born. Not with a bang, but with a wave of coherence, cascading through the fabric of society, repatterning everything from the inside out. And yes, there will be resistance. Entropy doesn't go down without a fight. Old paradigms defend themselves. They ridicule the new. They mock the visionary. They label coherence as naivety and empathy as weakness. But we are not here to appease the past. We are here to build the future. And the future does not ask for permission. It arrives like the morning, regardless of how well the night slept. Now, more than ever, we must decide what kind of morning we want to wake up to. One dictated by inertia, or one designed by intention? And if we choose intention, then every thought becomes a tool. Every word, a building block. Every act of kindness, a brick in the architecture of the next civilization. Because the new Earth is not built by governments or algorithms. It is built by people who remember that they are made of stars and start behaving like it. And behaving like it doesn't mean adopting some lofty posture of enlightenment. It means asking better questions. It means looking at the world not through the lens of convenience, but through the lens of consequence. Not just, what can I get from this, but what does this cost the collective? Not just, what do I believe, but where did that belief come from? Is it true, or is it an echo I never questioned? The scientific mind is not merely a catalog of facts. It's a habit of curiosity, a devotion to uncertainty, a romance with the unknown. And right now, what the new Earth demands is not certainty, but curiosity strong enough to dissolve illusion and compassionate enough to build something better in its place. This kind of curiosity doesn't just gaze through telescopes, It looks inward. It asks, why am I angry? Why do I fear the other? Why do I assume competition must override cooperation? And when enough people begin asking those questions, not rhetorically, but honestly start doing something extraordinary, we start evolving, not biologically, but consciously. You see, biological evolution is glacial. It takes millennia to change the shape of a limb or the color of an eye. But conscious evolution, that can happen in a single decision, in a single moment of insight, in a breath where judgment is replaced by understanding. And in those moments, we begin to shed the psychological debris that has accumulated over centuries of survival mode living. We stop hoarding. We stop clinging. We stop projecting old traumas onto new realities. We stop needing enemies to feel strong. And when enough individuals do this, when we achieve a kind of critical mass in awakened perception, society doesn't just improve, it transforms. What was once invisible becomes obvious. What was once tolerated becomes unacceptable. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. We've seen it before in flashes, in abolition, in civil rights, in the rise of democracies, in the fall of walls that once seemed eternal. These were not just political shifts. They were upgrades in collective awareness. But evolution is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Sometimes we fall back. Sometimes the shadow screams before it disappears. Sometimes we mistake motion for progress. And so the old earth-rooted in dominance, scarcity, control still haunts us, still seduces us, still promises comfort in the language of fear. But here's the secret. The old earth doesn't want you to know. It needs you to stay asleep. It needs you to keep believing you're small, that you're separate, that your vote, your voice, your love, your life doesn't matter. Because the moment you realize your frequency shapes reality, you become a threat to every system built on unconsciousness. And so the question isn't just, will the purest souls cross to the new earth? The deeper question is, will you purify your consciousness enough to become one of them? Not pure as in perfect, not pure as in pious, but pure as in unobstructed, able to transmit truth without distortion, able to love without conditions, able to create without fear of loss. That kind of soul does not need permission to cross into a new earth. That kind of soul becomes the bridge. And right now, the world is not short on resources, it's short on bridges. Bridges between the mind and the heart, between knowledge and wisdom, between science and spirit, between the individual and the collective, between the earth we inherited and the earth we're called to create. You want to be of service to humanity? Become a bridge. Not a guru, not a savior, just a clear channel through which the frequency of truth can flow unobstructed. And to do that, we must face a difficult reckoning, because if we are honest, many of our systems are not just broken, they were built broken, designed to divide, engineered to exploit. Our economic models reward extraction over regeneration. Our media thrives on outrage over understanding. Our politics are driven by spectacle, not substance. Our education systems prepare us to obey, not to think. And yet, amidst all this, we still awaken because something deeper is stirring. Something that doesn't come from textbooks or temples, something that doesn't require permission from any institution, something ancient and infinite. A memory encoded not in words, but in atoms. We are not just observers of the universe. We are the universe observing itself. And somewhere deep in our molecular memory, we remember what harmony feels like. We remember coherence. We remember unity not as a utopian fantasy, but as the default state of a system that is functioning as it should. That is the direction of the new earth. Not up, not away, but inward and forward. A civilization that doesn't compete with nature, but co-evolves with it, that doesn't conquer difference, but celebrates it, that doesn't worship the past, but learns from it, then dares to imagine something better. A civilization built not on the fear of death, but on the awe of life. And awe, my friends, is not passive. It is not entertainment. It is the beginning of reverence. And reverence is the seed of responsibility. Because once you are in awe of something, whether a nebula or a newborn, you protect it, you cherish it, you rise to meet it. This is the emotional architecture of the new earth. awe leading to reverence, reverence leading to responsibility, responsibility leading to transformation. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. So, when you feel tired, when the world seems too heavy, when the old earth screams louder than your intuition, remember this. You are not here to escape the chaos. You are here to become the calm within it. You are not here to wait for the light. You are here to be it. You are not here to cross to a new earth. You are here to call it forth with your choices, your frequency, your curiosity, your courage. And in doing so, you become a node in a vast constellation of consciousness, each one emitting light, not from perfection, but from persistence. And as those lights begin to align, a new world is born, not in theory, not in fantasy, but in reality. A world where empathy is a survival skill, where science is in service to wisdom, where progress is not measured in profit margins, but in the well-being of all life. And in that world, the question is no longer who will cross, but who will help carry others across. Because in the end, the purest souls are not those who float above the fray. They are those who walk through eyes open, hearts open, hands extended. And the idea of carrying others across that isn't metaphor. That's physics, that's biology, that's astrophysics wrapped in human compassion. In thermodynamics, systems tend toward entropy, disorder, chaos. Left to themselves, structures break down. But in biology, there's a stunning exception. Life. Life is the only known phenomenon that consistently builds complexity, that pushes back against entropy not by violating the laws of physics, but by cooperating with them, using them, working through them. Life doesn't fight the universe, it partners with it. So when you lift someone, when you teach, when you love, when you forgive, when you listen with presence, you're not just being noble, you're engaging in cosmic engineering. You're inserting information into the field, lowering chaos, increasing coherence. You are quite literally bringing order to the universe. And isn't that what the new earth truly is? Not a place of escape, but a resonance field where life, at last, harmonizes with itself? We are conditioned to believe that complexity breeds conflict, that the more we grow, the more we compete. But the truth is, the most advanced systems are also the most interdependent. Neurons don't hoard power, they fire in synchrony. Galaxies don't fight, they spin in gravitational embrace. Even subatomic particles don't exist in isolation. They emerge only in relationship. So why do we, this intelligent, creative species perched on the edge of galactic silence, still build civilizations like fortresses instead of ecosystems? The answer is not a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of awareness. We mistake dominance for strength, we confuse wealth with worth, we glorify competition while ignoring the deeper laws of cooperation embedded in the very structure of matter. But evolution doesn't favor the strongest. It favors the most adaptable. And right now, adaptation doesn't mean faster, bigger, louder. It means wiser, softer, more aware, more in tune. We must evolve not into warriors, but into conductors of reality. Not conquerors of the earth, but co-creators with it. And that requires a humility that science understands deeply. The willingness to be wrong, to revise, to let go of cherished models when they no longer explain the data. What if we applied that same humility to society? What if we revised our economic models, not because they've failed a few, but because they've failed many? What if we updated our cultural assumptions not to please the crowd, but to align with deeper truths? A civilization that refuses to update itself is like a rocket stuck in pre-launch, burning fuel, but never lifting off. And right now, we're burning fuel, environmental, emotional, spiritual, but we're also building thrust, the chaos, you see. It's not just collapse, it's compression, the system preparing to leap to a higher state of order. In physics, it's called a phase transition. Water becomes vapor, not gradually, but suddenly, once enough energy accumulates. And human systems work the same way. Revolutions don't unfold, slowly they erupt. Paradigms don't shift incrementally, they snap, like magnetic fields realigning in a solar storm. So when you feel the tension of this moment, don't retreat, don't numb yourself, don't look away. Lean in, observe, participate, because this is not the end of the world. It is the end of a version of it and the birth of something extraordinary. Yes, it's frightening. All births are. They involve pressure, blood, unknowns. But what emerges is worth it, because on the other side of this contraction is not just a new Earth, it is a new human. And that human will not measure success in GDP or military might, but in ecological balance, emotional intelligence, and the quality of consciousness. And that consciousness will not be ruled by ego, but guided by awe. Because awe, at its core, is what keeps us honest. What reminds us that no matter how powerful we become, we are still participants in a cosmic unfolding too vast to control. And in that humility, we find our true strength. Because the cosmos is not asking us to be perfect, it is asking us to show up with integrity, with curiosity, with a willingness to unlearn what no longer serves. And above all, to show up as if this moment matters, because it does. The butterfly effect isn't just a poetic metaphor. It's a principle of chaos theory. Small actions can have vast consequences. A whisper in one hemisphere can become a whirlwind in another. So what are you whispering into the field? What kind of energy are you feeding the system? Are you a carrier of division or a transmitter of coherence? These questions are not philosophical. They are operational. They define the signal you send into the network of life. And in that sense, purity is not about moral superiority. It's about signal clarity. Are you emitting noise, or are you broadcasting something the universe can build on? Because the new Earth will not be built by saints. It will be built by systems, thinkers, by poets of the possible, by people humble enough to be learners and bold enough to be leaders. And you don't have to wait for someone to appoint you. The universe already did that when it made you conscious. So act like it. Act like your choices matter, like your attention is a currency, like your breath is a vote, because it is. We are not here to watch history. We are here to make it. Not through conquest, but through coherence. Not by silencing others, but by tuning ourselves. Not by escaping the world, but by embodying the kind of being that transforms it. This is what the new Earth requires: not purity and isolation, but alignment in motion. A kind of elegance that science understands well. Doing the most with the least. Leveraging small inputs into large outcomes. Building complexity not by force, but through flow. And in that flow, something magical happens. The old Earth becomes a teacher, not a prison. The pain becomes a portal, not a punishment. The chaos becomes compost, not catastrophe. And from that compost, a civilization blooms. Not flawless, but flourishing. Not fantasy, but fact. A world where empathy is a design principle. Where education awakens minds instead of memorizing facts. Where governance reflects wisdom instead of wealth. A world where technology serves life, not the other way around. A world where spirituality is not dogma, but direct experience of interconnectedness. A world where science and soul are no longer enemies, but allies. And perhaps this is what it's all been building toward. Not a utopia, not an escape, but an invitation. A call not to leave the Earth, but to meet it for the first time with open eyes, steady hands, and an awakened mind. Because the Earth has never needed saving. She has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, magnetic reversals. She has been molten and frozen, barren and blooming. What she needs is not our salvation, but our maturity. She needs us to evolve beyond dominance and into stewardship, to stop thinking in empires and start thinking in ecosystems, to recognize that our survival is not a function of conquest, but of coherence. The soil under your feet is not just dirt. It is history, biology, memory, a living archive of carbon and time. And the person next to you, no matter how different their beliefs, their background, their identity, shares 99.9% of your DNA. The stars above you are not just decoration. They are your birthplace, your inheritance, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, all of it was forged in the nuclear furnace of stars that died billions of years ago. You are not separate from this universe. You are its expression. And this is why purity, as we've redefined it, matters. Because a distorted mind builds distorted systems. A clear heart creates harmony. And a coherent soul transmits coherence into everything it touches, from relationships to institutions to the planetary field itself. This is not mysticism. This is mechanics. This is entropy and order. This is feedback loops and resonance fields. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming clear enough, stable enough, responsible enough to allow the universe to move through you without interference, like tuning a telescope or cleaning the lens of a microscope. The clearer the signal, the more truth can be seen. And truth, not belief, not ideology, is what will carry us across. Because the new Earth, in its essence, is not a place you enter. It's a frequency you stabilize, a mode of being that you sustain. It doesn't ask you to be superhuman, only fully human, nothing more, but also nothing less. It asks you to stop outsourcing your agency, to stop blaming, numbing, distracting, delaying. It asks you to look at this moment, this chaotic, uncertain, beautiful moment, and say, I'm here. I choose to participate. I choose to create. Because this moment is not an accident. It is a convergence, a confluence of cycles, solar, geological, psychological, spiritual, all intersecting in one planetary heartbeat. And if you're alive right now, you are part of that rhythm. You are not a spectator to history. You are its instrument. So play something worth remembering. Let your life be a chord in the great song of civilization's awakening. Because this is the truth. Not everyone will cross to the new Earth, not because they were denied entry, but because they refused to release the weights they chose to carry, the bitterness, the certainty, the tribal stories, the fear. But if you're listening, really listening, then some part of you already knows what must be released, what must be shed, what must be forgiven. And when you do, not all at once, but moment by moment, the landscape begins to change. Not out there, in here. And when enough landscapes change within us, a new world arises around us. This is how the new Earth is born, not in a flash of divine rescue, but in a billion tiny decisions made by people who finally remembered that they are made of stars and decided to shine accordingly. People who chose awe over apathy, curiosity over cynicism, stillness over noise, truth over narrative, wonder over weariness. These are the pure souls, not saints, not sages, just humans clear, present, courageous, who became conductors of coherence in a field of chaos. And in doing so, they didn't escape the Earth. They redeemed it. So if you're still waiting for permission to rise, let this be it. If you're still looking for a sign to act, to change, to let go, to forgive, let this be it. If you're wondering whether one life can matter, let this be your answer. Yes, because the field remembers everything. And every clear signal, every coherent act, every courageous truth-telling sends a ripple through the invisible architecture of reality. The new Earth isn't something we hope for. It's something we are building now with every thought we purify, every system we reimagine, every person we uplift. So no, not all will cross. But those who do, they won't do it alone. They will carry others. They will plant seeds. They will become bridges. And on the other side of that bridge, when the dust settles and the signal stabilizes, we'll look around and realize the new Earth was never a destination. It was a choice, one we made together. And we'll know, in the quiet of our bones, that the crossing wasn't the miracle. We were